Hello, Hasrul. I'm
Hi,
Puva here.
hello.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us early. We will start very shortly.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Hasbro. Hi, TNO HR. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, yeah, I can hear you.
I think we'll wait for another 5 minutes just to let anyone else come in to the call, and we'll start. Hi, Sufei. I just waiting, giving 3 more minutes, and then we'll start my presentation. I'm giving some time for people to join. Okay, I think we'll just start first. I don't want to leave you guys waiting for too long. So thank you very much for joining today. So I think today we'll use this as a sharing session from me. Let me just quickly share my screen. Let me know when you guys can see it. Can you guys see my screen? Perfect. Awesome. So, hi everyone, this may be just a quick introduction, right? So my name is Brian. I am the CEO and founder of FutureLab. So what we do is we help companies launch, design, and scale their mentoring programs. So just a quick context as well. We've worked with around 60 plus different companies, worked with 4,000 mentors and did over 75,000 mentoring sessions. And over the past few years, we've been recognized as one of the best edtech companies in Southeast Asia for workplace learning. And I think today's session is essentially sharing, what we've learned over the last 8 years, launching our programs in Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei. These are some of the companies that we've worked with, and these are some of the clients we worked with as well. Lee Fong from Ipsos. We rolled out a mentoring program for their management training program in Malaysia. Johnson is one of our external mentors that's been joining a number of our clients as an external mentor for innovation. And we also do a lot of government projects in Malaysia, Brunei as well. So, for example, Safa is from Meranti. So we've been helping them on the entrepreneurship program. They're using our platform for their sessions. They do around 1,000, 2,000, 1 to 2,000 mentoring sessions a year on our system. So I'll start by sharing a bit more about what is mentorship. So first, mentorship is a relationship, right, between a mentor, which is someone that has more experience, and a mentee, which is someone with less experience. And the difference between mentorship and coaching is that a mentor needs to have relevant experience. So a mentor can be anyone within an organization that has potentially been there and done that, versus a coach where a coach essentially has learned certain frameworks and they want you to come up with the answer to solve your problems. And it's generally more short term. Mentorship is generally longer term. It can be your entire career. It can be 6 months, 18 months. It can also be your entire life, right? So for us, it's how do we build meaningful relationships in the workplace, at universities, in the startup, SME business world. So our focus is really much building and promoting mentorship in Southeast Asia. And when it comes down to mentorship as well, mentorship is definitely a two-way process, which means that both mentors and mentees can learn something from joining these kind of programs. So one thing that I'm sure all of us know here is that there's a growing skill gap within the Southeast Asian workforce, mainly due to a couple of reasons. The first one is that there's a higher workforce mobility nowadays where a lot of the younger generations tend to move from company to company, but not even just the younger generations. I think employees or people with specific skill sets like cybersecurity, data science, software engineering, they also get poached quite regularly by other companies because the talent pool isn't so big, right? The second issue that we've been facing is that there's a larger retirement pool, right? People are getting older, people are starting to retire. And this is also worrying for a lot of companies because these tend to be the senior leaders. And we've noticed a lot of companies don't have a solid succession planning process in place, which involves mentorship. And lastly, fast changing industries as well. Sorry, people are joining in. Hi, hi, Sharon. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for joining. Sorry. Yeah. So another thing is the fast and changing industries as well. With what's been happening with AI, we've noticed a lot of changes in a lot of the big organizations. For example, accounting firms are hiring less accountants. I think you can see globally as well, there's a lot of companies right sizing now. So what is happening is that the world is changing very rapidly and the workforce needs to change along with it. So what we found is that conventional training methods, which is your one-day training, it's not enough, right? It's inefficient or a bit too slow to really help the workforce adapt to where it needs to be as the world is evolving. So what we believe mentorship can do is that mentorship can play a role in closing the skills gap. Because with mentorship, it's very agile, it's human-centric, it is practical skills passed down from people within the organization to mentors within organizations to less experienced people within organizations. So this is a real time. It can happen every day. It can happen every week. It can happen every month. So it's a bit more of an organic way of like sharing knowledge and training people all the time, right? Instead of like a one-day training once every month. Can happen lunchtime. This can happen after work. This can happen anytime, where as long as they have a system in place. So we've been creating a lot of programs throughout the employee talent development cycle as well. So for entry-level programs, there are mentoring programs that you can create between the company and universities where you can develop talents to recruit them when they graduate. Mentorship has also been used for management training programs to help quicken the onboarding process for new joiners, to helping fresh grads understand about the company culture as well as the workflows. For junior and middle management, we do notice that there's a lot of demand for new manager training, because there's a lot of people that are getting promoted, but they're not exactly know how to manage people, right? So one thing that we found that mentorship in Malaysia specifically has been quite powerful in is actually new manager training. Within the junior and middle management as well, we have worked with HR to identify high potential talent that they want to retain. And by putting them into mentoring programs, it definitely speeds up the development, but also gives them a sense of belonging, which in turn improves their retention rate. And for senior managers, mentorship can also be used for succession planning programs, so helping the seniors identify their future successors and mentor them with what they need to essentially take on the role when they retire or when they move on. And something that we found quite interesting as well with one of the property companies that we work with is that they started doing intrapreneurship programs. So maybe just some context here. Our client, it's quite a big property company. Essentially, they have a lot of spare cash, and they were actually getting the senior managers to come up with new business ideas that they could launch. So this is where we actually pair them up with external founders, so startup founders from different countries, to help them come up with what other kind of businesses they can build within their group, right? Because they have a lot of different subsidiaries, and they're looking to come up with new kind of businesses to support the growth. So I thought today would be quite good as well to kind of show you guys some case studies in Southeast Asia. So we do have a number of partners in the region as well that do run mentoring programs. And I thought it would be good to kind of share, how have they implemented it, as well as the key outcomes they have gotten. So the key outcomes, just keep in mind, is what we have asked them, and this is what they have shared with us. So I'm sharing with you some of their case studies, and this is what they have found. So I think case study one is we'll talk about a regional super app based out of Indonesia. So what they had was that they launched an internal 6-month mentoring program for the design team. And essentially what they wanted to do is boost cross-functional learning and increase employee engagement as well as in retention. And this program was done internally, so they only used the internal design team, but they got their mentors from the different departments like product research, strategy, and sustainability. And after the 6 months, this is what they found. They found that 100% of participants said they wouldn't leave the job for a higher paying job. They did tell me this, but then when I read that, I'm like, I don't think they would tell you that they would leave. But I think the rest is relevant, right? 74% felt excited to come to work. I think they improve employee engagement as well as cross-team collaboration. And what they found with the mentors is that the mentors gained a lot of empathy and leadership skills, improving collaboration across different departments. And I think what's the key learning from this as well is that this was actually very low cost, right? It was low cost because they're using internal, sorry, someone joining the call. This was a low cost program and it was quite scalable because they use internal mentors from different departments, as well as the mentees are from the design team. So they found that it was low cost. It was a scalable program to boost engagement and internal knowledge transfer, while at the same time it gave the mentors in the different departments a real way to develop within the organization as leaders, rather than just doing the leadership training kind of modules or training days. They actually got them to lead or grow other people within different department in the company. The second case study I want to share is one of quite a big bank in Singapore. So what they have done in the last few years is that they have incorporated mentorship into their talent development plan. So a lot of organizations already have their plan for the year or the plan for the next 3 to 5 years, but not many companies have mentorship as a core component, as a supporting system for this training. So what this company has done, they have actually incorporated mentorship as a key component for their training programs, right? And the training programs include, education, exposure, and experience. So they did initiatives like job shadowing, as well as cross-departmental mentoring. And this is what they found. They found that one of the 3 job vacancies were filled internally, which means that they didn't have to hire externally. They actually got people from different departments to join to fill up certain spaces. So this helped them fill up, save them cost to recruit, but essentially it also allowed employees to experience something else within the organization without leaving the company to do this elsewhere. Because one thing about retention as well is that employees might leave not necessarily because they didn't like the company, but it could be just because they want to try something else, right? So by doing this cross-departmental mentoring, it was a very good way to give exposure internally for people to see, oh, what else could I do in this bank? And this bank is huge. So they had a lot of different departments that they could actually join. And one thing that I've also noticed is that 91% of the employees reported psychological safety at work. So that means that because they were mentored by senior managers in organization, they were happy, they felt safe to share their ideas they felt safe to disagree. They felt safe to share their thoughts, which is really important, especially when you're managing, the younger generation where they want to be heard, they want to share their ideas, right? And because of this program they've launched as well, they actually rose from 87 to 91% now in terms of employee engagement. Right? So I think what this showed is that when you embed mentorship into a broader talent ecosystem, you can lead to higher retention because of this internal mobility, but also you can also increase the engagement of different departments as a holistic way of developing the workforce. Okay, case study 3 is another telco from Singapore. These guys went quite hard into mentorship. They essentially spent around $20 million so far since 2019 to now, in terms of really building mentorship and coaching to develop a future-ready workforce. And they actually started with, how they started this is they actually started it with the Management Associate Program. So this is where they actually, the fresh grads come in. And I think most of you guys will know this, they get rotated to different departments within the organization within the first, 6 or 18 months. So the reason why they started with the management trainees is because they actually built up the culture from there. Right. So as these guys went in, started as management trainee, as they got get promoted, they already had a mindset of mentorship, which meant that the next cohorts was a lot easier to launch the program because you already have internal mentors you have developed since 2019. And these guys come in as mentors, and they are the next mentors for the management trainees, right? So this management training program included job rotation, career coaching, internal projects, but also a structured mentoring program for high potentials that they've identified through this program. And what I've noticed since they launched in 2019 is that there have been an increase, a 50% increase of unique learners and learning hours since 2019 to now, which means that they actually track the number of sessions that they conduct per year, right? And this is quite a big company, and essentially they've already trained 2,500 employees through this kind of program. And what I've noticed is that they've also invested in mentoring training for their leaders. And because of that, 84% of their direct report noticed a positive shift in the leadership styles within the organization. And they even launched an internal mentoring program for women to help improve gender representation in different specific departments. So I think what they found was quite powerful is that they use mentorship to build future leaders. Again, support internal mobility. I think one thing we've noticed with a lot of the larger scale programs that have been implemented is this idea of internal mobility. Because what they do is that internally they get mentored by different people in different divisions, right, different departments, which gives the mentee a wider idea of what the company has to offer, right? And by investing in career coaching, investing in mentorship, they're really trying to build the company up into a more agile and tech-driven type of company. And last one, so this is our actual client. So we work with one of the leading accounting firms in Malaysia, and they use this as they use the mentoring program as a two-way development tool. So what they did is that we worked with them to launch a social enterprise mentoring program for over 3 months, where we got the managers and above to join the program to mentor these startup founders, these social enterprise founders. And they wanted to do 2 things with this, right? One, the mentors that joined this has an idea of like how people run businesses, but at the same time, they're providing them advisory on how to grow their business. At the same time, it was a way for them to engage their employees in a way that is not just about work. It's about impact, helping society. Right? So what we found is that actually 92, most of the mentees found it really valuable being able to connect to these managers, senior managers from this accounting firm, right? But what we also found was quite interesting is that a lot of these mentors actually really enjoyed participating because, a lot of these mentors enjoyed helping. For example, there was a turtle NGO in there. There was a refugee NGO as well. So they found it very meaningful to share the knowledge with these founders, right? At the same time, they felt that they were helping them. Right? So this way, it was really a two-way learning for both, not just the mentors, but also the mentees. And I think what was really powerful about this is that again, is giving these employees a way to give back, at the same time engage them in a way that they find meaningful, right? Which then can lead to a high retention as well. Okay, so why does mentorship work? So I think that when you look into mentorship, I think all of us have an idea of what mentorship is. So I think with mentorship, it really builds trust and a sense of belonging, especially for uh, the the I guess millennials, the Gen Zs, the Gen Alphas, right? They are looking for trust. They want the company to show that they trust them. They want to trust their leadership, and they also want to feel like they belong to the organization. So I think with mentorship, you're able to build these kind of relationships within the organization. For the high potentials, it can really accelerate their growth because, as I showed you with some of the case studies, these companies are huge. They have like 1,000 employees, 2,000 employees, 5,000 employees. As a high potential person within this ocean of people, right? You will feel like you're not visible. I think when I used to work for Accenture as well, I think the managers always told us about this idea of visibility, right? Oh, you need to be visible so that you can get promoted in the next cycle. So I do feel like a lot of people, or like the high potential ones, if they don't feel that they are visible, right, or they are fast tracked, or they are selected to develop them faster, I do feel like they will start looking elsewhere to have that kind of feeling of I want to grow fast, right? I want to grow as fast as I can. So mentorship is a great way of accelerating growth for these kind of high potential employees. The third thing, as you've seen in other case studies as well, is this idea of breaking down silos. Because a lot of the time, right, and especially in big companies, you're super siloed, right? You only work with that team. Your department might be huge. You might have many sub teams, and you don't actually get to see what anyone else does. So mentorship can be very powerful in being able to connect people within organizations, and by doing that, you also get to learn what are the other departments doing so that you can be a lot more cohesive in terms of what you guys are trying to do, or like what is the company trying to do. And lastly, it is a very cost effective and sustainable way because essentially you're using your own employees to train your own employees in their own time, right? And I think people do ask like, oh, you know, why would I say this is sustainable? Because essentially it's building a culture of sharing. And if you look at what people do on a daily basis, you already kind of your job as a manager is already to help your junior understand what they're supposed to do. It is already some sort of mentorship. A lot of companies already have some sort of initiative to sit down with your manager and talk about your performance, right? Informally or formally. A lot of companies already have this, but they haven't really built a structure around that to make it meaningful and make it impactful. But it can be incredibly cost effective and sustainable in the long run. And I mean, just generally what they've like mentorship is not something new, it's been studied for many, many years, right? So what Forbes have shared is that mentored employees are 5 times more likely to get promoted. 69% of mentored employees stay longer. And I think I think for the younger generation, 79% of millennials say that mentorship is very important for their career success. Right? And I think as more of the younger generation go into the workforce, because FutureLab also works with a lot of university students, I can definitely tell you that mentorship, it is very important for them, and that's definitely what they're looking for in any organization that they're joining. So the workforce itself is changing because of the different generations within the workforce. And right now, uh, companies are in a very interesting space because you have Gen X, baby boomers at the top end that are about to retire and move on. And you have a lot of young people coming in, and these are the guys that are going to be your new managers. These new managers are the ones that are going to manage the fresh grads that are coming in. And I say there's definitely an alignment between millennials and the younger generation coming in, because I would say millennials are the in between. So we do find that millennials are open to learning about mentorship. They're open to mentor because they know that it is important for them, and it's also probably important for their juniors. Um, so with that, I also like to kind of go in terms of the different type of mentoring formats, right? So in terms of mentorship formats, there are few types. So in terms of mentorship, it can be one-on-one. It can also be one mentor to a group. But within a program, there's also different types of structures that you can use, right? So one is cohort-based. So for example, if you're doing a management training program, that would probably be a cohort-based structure where they all join at one time. They go through a 6 to 18-month mentoring journey, and everyone goes through that cohort. You can also have something called informal mentorship, where essentially we call it open mentorship. So essentially, this is where people can find their own mentors. There's no defined structure or timeline. You can reach out to these mentors anytime you need to speak to them. There are three other types of mentorship as well. One is external mentorship, where this is you bring in external mentors with subject matter expertise or experiences in different countries that you might want to expand to. So using external mentors outside the organization. You can also have peer-to-peer mentorship, where you are paired with a mentor in a different department but the same level. So essentially, you can be learning about different departments and what they do. And I think one thing that also has been popping up a bit is this idea of reverse mentorship, where actually it's the younger person is considered the mentor, but they probably have some sort of skill set. For example, it could be how to use TikTok, how to use Instagram, how to use LinkedIn, how to use social media, and you pair them up with a senior leader that doesn't have this skill set. And this is where you can share knowledge upwards towards the leaders within the organization. Right. So in terms of the roles of a mentor-mentee as well. So I'll give you guys, I'll go into a bit more about like program design and stuff later. But generally as a mentor, should be used as a guide. So one thing that we like to say as well is that a mentor is almost like a lighthouse, right? So if you are in the sea, you're lost, you're looking for a lighthouse, right? So when we do train mentors, we like to tell them that you are the lighthouse, right? People are looking at you, people are trying to, they want looking for a safe space, they want to learn from you about your experience. And it's not about sharing your beliefs, it's about sharing your actual knowledge that you have learned working at this role. And I think mentorship is really important in passing down tacit knowledge. So tacit knowledge is knowledge that's earned through experience. You can't really find this online. You can't find this in your onboarding books. This is from years of experience doing this particular role. And I think that's really valuable. And I think a lot of organizations do not capture that enough, especially when people leave, you lose that. And it's very hard to get it back because it's almost impossible to get it back because it's not shared anywhere else, right? So mentor's role is to really share this knowledge they've gained from experience. And they can also act as an accountability partner to make sure that the mentees uh, are in charge of their own are in charge of their own goals. Because with mentorship, generally it is mentee-led. It's not mentor-led, which means that the mentees are in charge of working with the mentor to identify what they want to do. The mentors provide the information the advice they have or the knowledge they've gathered. And it's the mentee's job to execute on it and come back to the mentor and update the mentor. The mentor shouldn't really be the person chasing you. But of course, mentors can always check in like once a month is to see how you have been moving towards your goal to get promoted, to get, work on a specific project or so on and so forth. And the role of the mentee is definitely a learner, right? They need to be proactive in seeking out learning gaps to help them reach that goal. Again, they need to be open-minded in having a meaningful conversation with the mentors, because the mentorship actually, what mentors provide is also perspectives, right? A different perspective at looking at a specific challenge, because a way a mentee look at a challenge could be very different to how a mentor looks at a particular challenge. And that different perspective is super valuable because it can then open the mind of the mentee to see, oh, you can look at this challenge this way as well. And that is really valuable in helping someone move towards the goal or overcome a challenge. And a mentee's role is really be responsible for their own growth and set milestones with the mentor so that they can work towards it. So I also listed down a list of like impact trackers that we also do track for programs that if you guys are launching any programs, I can these are some of the things that we look at, right? So for talent development and retention, we look at internal mobility rates. So as I shared in the case studies, you can see how people within the organization maybe join vacant roles internally. Second thing is retention of high potential employees. So we do a pre and post program retention assessment. Time to productivity, how fast can we onboard new or junior talent into the company's workflows and culture, and also promotion rates, right? As I shared earlier, Forbes showed that 5 times faster to get promoted. Again, this is something you can look at, right? How fast do these high potential employees get promoted within the next 6 to 12 months once they've been mentored? You can also look at engagement and satisfaction. So of course, employees engagement score before and after mentorship, mentor-mentee satisfaction rates. Goes after, we can do this after the pre and post program, participation rate. So how this works is that, let's say you create a program and you share it with your employees, how many of them actually sign up for it? Right, that essentially shows you the demand of people that want to get mentored. And then the repeat participation. So how many of these people that joined the program this year as mentors want to come back to join the program next year as mentors? Or the mentees, same thing. If they came in this year as mentees, maybe they want to join as a mentee again next year. So this is something you can also track. The cool thing about mentorship is also it's a cycle. So the mentees that have joined your program maybe like 1-2 years ago might have gotten promoted within that time, and they are very likely to join this program as a mentor. So once you're able to actually build some sort of flywheel within the organization from mentees to mentors, then you're starting to build up your own mentor pool that you can use for future programs. And this is where the cost effectiveness comes in. Once you're able to build up that database of your own internal mentors that want to join your existing programs that you have created internally. And lastly, we also can track business and culture outcomes. So attrition rate, reduction in voluntary turnover, leadership pipeline strength, like identifying how many potential successors you have groomed for specific roles through mentorship, cross-functional collaboration, seeing how many people are actually speaking to different departments to share knowledge, right? This is something you can track. So again, this is like more sessions, more knowledge being shared, which means that when more knowledge is being shared, the dependency on one person leaving and taking all that knowledge away is reduced, right? Because that knowledge is now that whole team knows about it. So yeah, so I think the idea is like reduction in reliance on key people within the team, because sometimes in companies there only could be one person that knows that information. So by creating these kind of programs, you're also getting people to share that information so everyone has an idea of how that thing works, which means when the person leaves, the company can continue to run instead of like waiting to hire a new person. And that person might not work out, might work out, who knows, right? Cool. So common mistakes when building a mentoring program as well. So there are certain things we've noticed with our clients that we really come in and help them. One is that a lot of people also try to launch programs without really understand with a clear learning objective. And I think this is a two-way thing um, because people are also not necessarily sure what they want to track. But essentially, they don't know how to start. So I think when we speak to some of our clients, they ask us to help them design it, right? And I'll walk you guys through a bit later in terms of like how we kind of look at designing a program. But a lot of the times, people are still not too sure about how mentorship works actually. So I think that's where they're not really coming out with the clear learning objective. They think it's just like, oh, speak to this person, and they're not really sure how to track it. So this becomes a problem because it's hard to get buy-in from your seniors, the higher ups, the upper management for this program. At the end of the program, you're not able to report, the ROI of the time spent to do this program back to upper management, and then comes up this whole problem, right? So definitely you want to have a clear learning objective before you launch any program. Second thing, again, poor mentor-mentee match. We also noticed that some companies like to get the direct managers to be the mentor, which is a terrible idea because the mentee will never tell the mentor any problems because that's the boss, right? So you that doesn't make sense to set it up this way. Also, um, I also think that a lot of companies don't send out, like we do a mentee assessment form. So we actually send out a form to mentees to help identify what's their goal, what's the challenges they're facing, and what are they looking for. So again, I think sometimes companies don't have the time to do that, but again, it's really important in being able to match the mentee to the right mentor, because we notice is that if you do that, that's almost 80% of the work done, because as long as the mentor and mentee have a good connection and they want to learn from each other, they will already do these sessions on their own because they enjoy it, right? But if you put a mentee with a mentor and they don't like each other, it's going to be really hard for that program to be successful. Another problem we have with this is that sometimes there's no feedback loop. So even though you've paired them up, how do you know whether that they're having that, the mentor or the mentee like each other? There's no real feedback loop back to admins. So again, I think the mentor-mentee match is very important. And the third thing as well is that yes, everyone has the information. Yes, senior managers can be mentors. But at the same time, one thing we notice is that people they just brain dump, right? People just dump as much information as they can to the mentee. So actually the mentors don't understand how to facilitate the session. They don't know how to identify what information they should share. And some mentors as well go into just telling them what to do, which is also not right. So being able to train the mentors on how to be a mentor, it will be very important in the success of the program. The fourth one is that they fail to capture and measure learning object effectiveness as well. So again, sometimes people would launch a mentoring program, 6 months long. They do a check-in once at the start, 3 months, and at the end. But in between, they're not really tracking how well the program is going uh, more regularly after every session. And this ties into the last part, which is they're not really using tracking tools for these sessions, right? So then how do you know that your 140 mentorship pairs are doing well? Because it's a lot of work to track. So how do you do it? Because a lot of people just sending out surveys, but that is not the best way of tracking these kind of mentoring programs. Okay, so just to share, this is we have a lot more slides on this, but this is just a summary, right? So when we go into building a mentoring program, essentially it's 5 steps. So we first need to identify, the desired outcome, whether there be succession planning, whether that be engagement of employees, whether that be specific knowledge transfer across departments, right? We need to identify what is the goal first. Second step is identifying how do you want to do the matching and what kind of format do you want to do it in. If you can remember earlier, I showed you like one-on-one, group session, reverse, structured, external. Here, there's a few types of how you can run this program, right? So first, identifying the learning outcome, then thinking about like what structure makes the most sense for this to happen. Then identifying the mentees, finding the right mentors, train the mentors on how to conduct a mentoring session. Launching of a program is very important as well, because I think us being Asians, we generally not that, we don't like speaking to strangers, put it that way, right? So you see, we want to meet them somewhere. And a launch is always good because it's a launch, it can be a lunch or just a session. They get to meet a mentor for the first time, and then after that, they broke the ice, then they can continue. And step 5 is definitely continuous monitoring and reporting on each of the conversations, because this is where you can identify which pairs are working, which pairs are not working, and whether you're already working towards the intended outcome of what you want. Especially on a longer program, it's very important to track because people might stop talking to each other after like 1 month, but it's an 18-month program. And it's very hard for you to, like, let's say 6 months or 3 months, 4 months down the line, you did a check-in and you realize, oh, 30% of my pairs didn't speak to each other. It's very awkward to try to restart that, right? Because it's for 3 months they haven't spoken to each other. Then now they need to speak to each other again. But obviously there's a problem in the first place why they didn't speak to each other. So it's very hard to recover from that for those pairs, right? But if you could identify those problems earlier, you can repair them with different people, and then they generally can be quite happy doing those sessions. Just to share again on the screenshot of this mentor-mentee matching process. Again, it comes down to, we already defined the learning outcome. Generally, what we do as well is that once we have identified the mentees, whether that be your hypos, your potential succession leaders, with your future leaders, we have already identified the group that you want to mentor. You can give them a mentor assessment form to help them identify, like, okay, what are they looking for? What are the challenges they're currently facing? What they're looking for, and how frequently they want to speak to. Do they in Malaysia with Muslim, like, as well, as important to understand, like, sometimes girls want to be mentored by girls, not necessarily. It might be a bit weird for a girl to be mentored by a guy, so we definitely need to understand that as well, so that everyone is comfortable in that situation. And from there, we then shortlist the potential mentors, finalize the pairings. And this is also good because when the mentors and mentees first meet, normally what we should do, or what's the best practice, is to actually come up with a brief, right? So a brief in terms of, like, okay, this is the mentor, this is the mentor's background, and this mentor is chosen because of you are looking for A, B, C, D. This mentor has A, B, C, D. Same thing for the mentee, right? Like, hey, but as a mentor, it's like, hey, this mentee has been paired with you because this mentee is actually looking for help in this, and you have this experience. So essentially, that's already going to be your learning journey, right? The mentor's guide in terms of like what they're going to work towards. That's really, really useful in before you set up the program. Once it's done, you onboard both participants. They both have a conversation, and essentially you do the launch. That's where they meet for the first time, and then they can go on their way and have those sessions. At any point, if they feel like that the chemistry is not good or doesn't work, it's important that they have a feedback loop to the program owner so that you can step in and change. And it's better to change early than later, because definitely it gets a bit awkward for both parties. Right. So characteristics of good and not so good mentor. Also, I noticed that we only have 12 minutes left, so I'll try to speed up a bit. Essentially, a good mentor should have relevant experience. Again, because mentorship is about knowledge sharing. For mentors, again, it's also about creating a safe environment where they can share. And instead of telling them what to do, essentially, you should be really listening more of what they're doing or what help they need, and provide them relevant experiences, or sharing different perspectives of how they can look at it or what they could do. Essentially, they need to play a role of inspiring them to be move towards a goal. And in a good pairing, the mentor would have already been there and done that. So essentially, the mentor would have already accomplished these things before. So it's just telling them, oh, this is how I did it. And that's already very inspiring of speaking to someone who has done it. Right? On the not so good side, again, you're matching them with someone that is completely irrelevant to what they're trying to do. Some mentors as well, not everyone can be a mentor. Again, sometimes it's an attitude thing, right? Some people are just unapproachable and they're not that pleasant. They shouldn't be a mentor, because they will probably discourage the mentee. And another one as well is that you don't really want a mentor to dominate the conversation. So I think sometimes in that kind of dynamic, it's very easy for the mentor to just word dump, right? Just dump everything onto the mentee. But it's very important to listen to like what they want, or like what they're looking for, and they should spend more time listening rather than dominating the conversation. Another issue with mentors as well, and this is the trust thing that I was mentioning earlier, right? Like mentorship is about building trust. Mentors that cancel a lot or miss sessions, it breaks trust, right? So this is really important, that when mentors say that they are available at this time, both mentors and mentees shouldn't cancel. But again, it's important that I think in the scenario of a working environment, definitely the mentors would generally be more busy because they are higher up. But it's important to find the frequency that this mentor is available. So you can't, sometimes senior management, but can't do it every week, can't do it every month. Maybe once every 3 months, once every 2 months. But that's fine, right? As long as when you set that time, you don't cancel it. Right? I think that's really important in building that trust and building that relationship. And of course, shouldn't be gossiping about stuff and talking about random things within the mentoring session, right? It should be, positive. It should be towards helping the mentee move towards their goal. I think when you guys sign up, I think someone said that they're trying to see how to improve their own mentorship skill sets as well. So one thing we do teach mentors as well is a conversation flow, because in FutureLab as well, we have some mentors doing like 2-hour session, 3-hour session, which is not sustainable, right? So for us, we try to get everything down within 60 minutes. Like ideally 45 minutes to 60 minutes. That should be more enough time to have a very productive mentoring session. So how do you spend your 60 minutes? The first one should be like 10 minutes. How do you just reconnect, right? How are they? How's your cat? How's your dog? You should know them. You should know them a bit by this point. You can just ask them how's the work previously, just to break the ice. 20 minutes should be exploring, just understanding the mentee stories, what are their current goals and what they're currently struggling with. Then we want to define, so focus a bit more in terms of what actions can we take, right? What actions based on what you've shared, and I've also shared my experience, like what can we do for the next meeting, or what can we try? The next thing is then setting up the goals, right? So once you have identified what you want to do, is then now setting it down and writing it out. Like, okay, in 2 months, let's catch up again. In the next 2 months, let's just make sure you do A, B, C, D. Then that will be the next session. Then you catch up. You can reconnect about how they went from the last session, and then you follow these steps. So first, we want all mentors to do follow a similar kind of conversation flow, because one thing is that sometimes mentoring sessions can drag on really, really long, and then it becomes very hard to make that sustainable, because every time you meet, oh, it's 2 hours of my time, right? And it gets very tiring. So how do we make it within an hour so it's very productive and it's repeatable, productive and repeatable, right? Then again, you can always check in, just a quick WhatsApp message, email, whatever, whatnot. Then you have the next session, which is to follow up, and you conduct the same kind of mentoring conversation flow. All right, I have a few more slides left, but maybe just to share, what are the struggles of organizations like implementing mentoring programs. One, I think it's, as I mentioned, as I shared a bit earlier on the case studies, right? I see a lot of organizations have some sort of informal mentoring program, informal mentoring or career coaching for employees already, but it's informal. One thing a lot of people struggle with is that, again, I think mentorship is still relatively new in Southeast Asia, but it's very well established in the US, Europe. It's already one of the key components that probably implemented. Right. But I think what we have now is that a lot of companies have that kind of conventional mindset of, I have all my trainings lined up for the year, right? Okay, I'm doing this training A, B, C, D. And they're not really sure how to put mentorship into this, right? Because is it its own initiative, or is it going to be like, how does it work? How do you put mentorship into my training plan? Right? And I would say, like, to answer that question, you should really look at mentorship as a way to reinforce your training. So whatever training you can have a mentorship tail to that, right? So that whatever 1-day training, 2-day trainings you have a mentorship cadence for the next few months after that, to make sure that any leadership training you send them to, they're paired with a leader internally to help them understand how to apply their learning to the workforce. And you can have someone accountable to see that the learnings that you have paid for is being applied to their work. And the second problem they have, again, is this mentor-mentee compatibility. Definitely, we met HR people that go like, oh, we have a lot of leaders, but they won't be good mentors. And I think, like, we didn't get to meet them, so we don't know whether they would be good mentors or not. But I think that there are a lot of people that want to mentor. There are a lot of people that want to be mentees in an organization. After running FutureLab for 9 years, right? It's people do want to give. People do want to give back. People do want to help. Generally good, yeah. And I generally find, like, leaders or people that have accomplished things, they definitely want to share, because they're kind of proud of it as well, right? At the same time, within companies, you also have people that want to achieve. But within an organization, you will always have these two groups of people. It's about how do you support them and you train them, then you pair them up, and then that's essentially how you build mentoring programs. And lastly, it's like a lot of them doing it manually. So some companies, the HR team is like 4 to 6 people, but they're managing like 1,600 people. It's hard, right? It's very hard. It's very hard to pair them. It's very hard to track them. It's very hard to track ROI. They don't use tech. That's another problem, right? It's like they do everything manually, which is really operationally heavy to do. So generally, companies in the US, they're using mentoring platforms to help facilitate all of that. So then essentially that's what we do, right? So for FutureLab, we built our own mentoring platform because at that time we didn't know there wasn't any mentoring platform in Malaysia at the time, so I built it like 5, 6, 8 years ago. So for us, onboarding people into the platform, we built a mentorship co-pilot system as well, which means that we help with scheduling. If you're doing video calls, we also have AI to transcribe all the sessions. And the AI also helps the mentor and mentee generate learning journey. So like, okay, based on my conversation, this is what Brian said, this is what you can do next. So we do notice that mentors and mentees do need help with that. So we build a system to help them with that. We provide them access to our own mentors that we have trained. We also have coaches and counselors. We have a resource library for mentorship. So if you need any like resources on how to mentor, again, you can just download it from our system. And again, we automate the reporting and tracking. So it just is a dashboard. You can track all the sessions, what they're talking about, what's the impact they've been having, and so on and so forth. Again, what we do is again launch and help companies launch their program. So program design, impact tracking is something we do. We also do provide mentor-mentee training, which is HRD claimable. We have a platform, and we also have a network of mentors that you can tap into. And lastly, we also developed our own mentorship development framework. So a lot of companies that want to launch internal programs are looking for training to develop their own mentor pool. So we do provide training as well to help them get from stage 1 to stage 3, which is basically the do's and don'ts of mentorship. Second thing is helping to identify strengths and weaknesses, and then managing conflicts. And this is all HRD claimable. So timing-wise, I think I've been an hour, but definitely happy to answer any questions for like 10, 15 minutes. If you do want to have some sort of we also do this mentorship program readiness assessment. So if you want to see like how ready you are to launch a program, just scan our QR code, answer a few questions for us, and then we will, one of my teammates will reach out and go through your results with you and kind of share what you can do to be more ready to launch a mentoring program. But yeah, with that, I think that's the end of my webinar. I think that was a bit long. Maybe cut out some stuff, but do you guys have any questions, or do you guys have any feedback in terms of any questions you guys have? Happy to answer as well. Was this if no questions, was this useful for you guys to kind of understand a bit more about mentorship? I know that a few of you guys have a few questions. I tried to answer them, but again, I think there's a lot of content, so I was just trying to speed through it a bit. Yeah. Cool. I mean, it's 4:30, so I think if you have no questions, then I don't want to keep you guys here as well. So yes, we will share no worries. We will share this. I will upload this, but of course, we will only keep it up for like 3 days or so. So let my team will upload this webinar. We'll put it on YouTube. We'll send you guys a link. You guys can rewatch it on your time. Sorry, I can't share the slides because I can't share the slides, but you guys can watch the webinar. Again, if you guys have any questions, you can just reach out to me or my team. We're happy to help. And yeah, I wish you guys all the best. I hope, any feedback as well in terms of my presentation be great. But I hope, you guys learned something from today. But thank you very much. I hope you guys have a good day. Thank you, everyone.